Hello class. In this video, I will cover chapter 2 and more specifically economic systems. Hello class. In this chapter, I will talk about learning objective 1 of chapter 2 that describes the characteristics of different types of economic systems. I will dedicate it a different lecture for learning objective 2. And I will let you read by yourself learning objective 3 on China. So in economics, we say that we have mainly three different types of economies. One is a pure market economy in which we shop, that is the US market economy. And the conditions of that economy is that we have private property rights and a decentralized decision-making coordinated through market. What does that mean? In order to have a pure market economy, the necessary conditions is that property rights are guaranteed for every individual. That's enable markets to freely function, to actually function. If there's no private property rights, that means that when you buy a car from a private dealer and take it home, you don't have a guarantee that you can keep that car. Anybody can come and take it away from you and you have no recourse. So private property rights, the guarantee of what you buy is yours, is the first conditions. If you don't have that guarantee, then there will be no market. There will be a very limited economy. The second condition is that the decision-making process is decentralized. That means that there's no centralized place, an entity or individual that can make all the economic decisions for everybody. That's what we have in the command economy. When you have a state, okay, that decides how much, which good, when and where, and at which price should be produced. In a market economy, we don't have that. All the participants in the economy, buyers and sellers, make their own decisions based on their own interest. I have a video that addresses that. That's the Invisible Hand video of Adam Smith. If you watch this video, it addresses the questions, the necessity to have a decentralized market where everybody makes their own decisions, make those decisions in their own interest, okay? And by doing so, they try to have the highest profits for themselves. And nobody forces them to make those decisions. Those individual decisions make the market fluent. The command economy, it's, as I said, an economy where the states make centralized planning and decision about what to produce, etc. That type of economy no longer exists. It used to be the Soviet Union economy and the Cuban economy, but both economy moved to a mixed economic system now. Okay, when the states still making a lot of decisions, and that's just China, Russia, and Cuba, and maybe a few other economies that are really transitional economies. They are mixed economies. They are open market economy, but with a lot of decision made at the state level. We need to understand that there's no pure, okay, market economy, because even the US, the Congress or the government, right, encourage decision making in a certain direction. Okay. So, for example, recently the government encouraged the mass productions of masks the mass production of vaccines. Okay, so those direct involvement, government involvement in the economy are not the characteristic of pure market economy. It's still a market economy, it's just not a pure market economy. So there's no pure market economy that exists in the world because most governments have some say about how the economy is functioning and provide through taxes advantage to some companies and industry, etc., etc. The resource allocation, so resources are allocated in different types of market structures. We have four types of market structure. Okay, number one is pure competitive market, and number four is purely monopolistic market. Those two extremes don't exist in the real world. Okay, and I'll explain why in a minute. In between, we have number three, that is a monopolistically competitive market. And number four, we have oligopolies. Okay, so what are the characteristics of a purely competitive market? That's make it unrealistic, but necessary for modeling purposes. We need to have a large number of buyers and sellers, and to have a very large number of buyers and sellers, that's guarantee that no one single person can drive or move the market in one direction or another one. Okay, influence the market, and that's important for market to be completely free and to have a real invisible hands, okay, that is doing the work that is nobody particular's hand. Now, let's say a small town like Port Alice, where our college is. Do we have large number of sellers for every product that we buy or sell? The answer is no, right? If you want to shop for groceries, we have two main ones. Okay. If you want to shop for gas, which is supposed to be, you know, a standardized product, right? We have less than 6 gas stations, about that number, less than 10 for sure. There is not many. So in the real world, we don't always have a large number of sellers. The second condition is that each seller offers standardized products, and this is the most sticky and real one. A standardized product is a product that cannot be differentiated. So basically, milk is milk usually, or organic milk is organic milk. A standardized product is that you cannot differentiate the product regardless of who is producing it. Okay, so if you want to buy gold, for example, right, or if you want to buy diamond, those products are more or less standardized, and so, or cement, right? It doesn't matter who produced it; they are not differentiated, right? You buy gold and you don't really care where it's coming from. If you come from India, China, or Africa, or South America, okay, it's the same gold. If you want to buy a pair of sneakers, those products are highly differentiated. Okay, you typically do care about who produced that, and so that's the difference between standardized and differentiated products. A lot of products that we buy, okay, are differentiated. So let's say that you drive into Albuquerque and you want to buy bottled water, right? You may have in mind what type of brand you want and where you want to buy it, right? You may drive straight to Walmart even though there's a gas station nearby because you know that Walmart price is cheaper. Well, Walmart differentiated itself by offering lower cost products, right? You don't just drive necessarily to closer gas stations to buy Nestle water, for example. And so most of what we buy is produced in the monopolistically competitive market. In the monopolistically competitive markets, that's where somewhat differentiated products are sold. Okay, we have a large number of buyers and sellers. Okay, but the product are differentiated. So I covered these three. Product price are free to move up and down. We have that in most of the market that we shop in. But again, price don't move up and down over time. So for example, if you have a snowstorm, shovels, right, demand is increasing. If you go to Walmart, for example, you will expect the price to be higher if more people want it and supply is low. But yet you may run out of bread, water, etc. Walmart will not increase the price, okay, move the price because supply is going down, right? Again, those happen in the monopolistically competitive market. So all those markets I'm discussing are monopolistically competitive market. Buyer and sellers must be totally mobile, right? That means you don't take into account the cost to go shop at the store that has the lowest price, right? That is also unrealistic. You will not go drive 3 miles to buy water at Walmart if you have a gas station near to you for one bottle of water. Okay, you look at the differences. It will cost you more to drive longer time than to buy locally. And then freedom to exit and entry. That means that the businesses are free to leave a market or to get in. Well, if you want to open a grocery store in Portales, it's not easy to access and get into that market. And so, again, a grocery store is not a purely competitive market because those who want to enter that market, face a high cost or barriers to entry, difficulties to enter the market. There are two big contenders who will not let you get in easily. Okay, so most of what we buy, okay, we buy them from monopolistically competitive producers or oligopolies. And so oligopolies are when you have a few sellers, right? Many buyers, but a few sellers. And so a lot of the businesses we buy from in Portales, for example, a small town about 12,000, okay, they are going to be oligopolies. There are few. When you go to bigger cities, you have more suppliers and you will be shopping most likely from monopolistically competitive firms. Okay, this is for now. We'll use all that information in our next video. Two different types of